Hello. Now let's come to another aspect of an event, which is the submissions. So, till now, we have covered most of the things related to event setup, registration, accommodation, and and handling of group registrations and delegates. And now we'll talk about submissions. So, how do we go to submissions? We are on the event dashboard, and now we can hover over the submissions and click on submissions. Now, what we can do is create a new submission here. Click on add new submission. Sorry. So, inside it, let's name the submission. Let's say its name is Symposium. What we're basically creating is uh, a submission accepting detail. So, this is a particular category of submissions. Like if I want something related to physics, I can say physics. So people can fill in their physics papers in this submission, and they can also uh, fill in their papers and mention their presentation types. The basic motive of this section is to uh, have the papers, have them reviewed, and have them checked, and then decisions are assigned based on that. And once the decisions are assigned, they are moved to the programs inside of the event, which we'll come to later. And now let's get started. Hidden. So if this submission is hidden, what happens is this is not visible to the delegate, so they'll have to move through a link directly so that they can register or they can submit a submission. Let's keep the hidden no, and even if we leave it unfilled, so in that case also this will be taken as a no. We can have an admin that is handling the submissions. Let's search for someone. Let's say Michelle Palmieri is the one who is going to be the admin. And submission types is abstracts. We have 5 different types, and some of the options change based on these uh, types of submissions we select. So let's select full papers. Let's say the submission opens on today. Previous dates are disabled because we do not want you to select previous dates. And then we can hide this submission date. What the dates are, we can hide them so that we can control it, but we do not want to hide it, so we'll say no. And we can also put a cap on how many submissions can be done by a user. Let's say we can do 3. And let's keep the editing end date. Once the submitter has submitted their presentation, sorry, their paper, they can edit it up to a certain date. Let's say that date is 14th of December, and the time zones have been pre-filled from the event itself. Then we have the reviewing end date. Reviewing is basically the process when the paper is uploaded and all the details are filled in. Then a reviewer is onboarded whose job is to review the papers and give it a rating, or whatever criteria we set, they'll have to answer that, and based on that we can assign a decision to the submission. So let's say the reviewing end date is 30th and submission end date is let's say submissions close on 20th. And now default review stage, use the event default. We can have initial review stage as set as default. So what happens is basically when anyone makes a submission, they are default put in a stage. So for example, it's the first layer of reviewing. So any reviewer who is onboarded is set on a certain stage. Suppose we say that that is stage 1, and once that review is complete, it's passed on to the next level of review after assigning it to a certain different stage. So right now we use the default stage, which is the initial review, and let it be. We can introduce some terms and conditions. Let's switch this on. We already have some sample text here. Please have your submission open in word processing software, not in PDF format before starting. That is important because if you copy and paste, the formatting is retained then. Now we have terms and conditions. We can also put in some terms and conditions. Please acknowledge that your submission will only be accepted into the final program if you have valid registration. So that is one. And if we want to ask them this question, ask submitter if they give consent to publish their submission, we should have permission, so we can ask them this question. And this is the question we're gonna ask them. And then we have presentation types. Now we have the presentation types. Inside of the presentation types, uh, we have already these defaults set, and you can read these notes. Now, what does this note say? If above switch is disabled, the presentation types won't be shown to the users. If the presentation types are hidden, you can set the paper upload settings in the default presentations type, and default submission type is admin only and will not be visible to the submitter. Please note these presentation types will be added by default on saving the submission, and you don't need to add them manually. So these five are automatically added here, and the default one is also added. So we don't need to create them manually. So yeah, if we enable this, the delegate is able to see these, or the submitter is able to see these presentation types and select their own. But yes, if we keep it disabled, this will not be visible to the end user or the submitter, which it will still be visible to the admin so that they can assign a certain decision to it. So we'll just enable it. And we also can add a certain presentation type. Let's say I want to add a VR presentation. Someone wants to present a presentation in a VR, and let's say max presenting authors are two. We can have a certain extended deadline for this particular presentation type. Let's say it is 31st. Now we have the extended deadline of up to 31st December, and now we can set the reviewing deadline in particular for this presentation type to be, let's say, 25th of December. So, however, we do not need to mandatorily fill all of these details. We can assign this as admin only, or which will in turn be, you can still assign this as a decision, but authors are unable to submit to this type. So we'll not keep it admin only. We can enable full paper upload. We can upload presentations. We can upload video presentations. And if it's a removed type, it will be like a decision assigned when someone wants to withdraw their submission. So let's save these details. And now that this is created, we can go further down and we can have an instruction text like for the presentations. So we can say, please choose any one of your choice. A decision would be assigned for your paper. Please choose any one of your choice. A decision would be assigned for your paper after a review. And then we can go further down and we can have the keywords disabled or enabled. So let's keep them enabled for now. We can enable categories, and let's say we have a category of um, full paper types, and we can have a parent category also. So um, I'll come to this later. Let's say publish yes, and leave the submission description and content template. I don't want to go into this, but you can fill them in and they'll be shown to the delegate or the submitter once they want to select a certain category. I can create this, and now I can add another. Let's say draft paper type, and let's keep the publish as no and leave the rest of it. Create. And now we can enable title. This enables the user to fill in a title for this submission. Let's say the word limit of a title is 10 words, and this is the instruction for inputting title text. And let's go further down. We can then enable authors. Enabling authors, we have certain options here. We can give some instructions to the authors on filling in the details, and which is listed here. And then if the max number of authors is set to 0 or field is left blank, then no limits will be set. So if I'm not filling this field max presenting authors, then in that case it will be set to unlimited. So let's set the presenting authors limit to 2, and once a submitter is filling in the submission, when they come onto the author's page to input the author details, their own details are pre-filled first. So we can disable that by checking here, but I don't want to do that, so I'll leave it here. And then we can enable content, which is the actual deal which someone would be filling in. We have some word limits here. We can set the word limits to 3000, and we can give them some instructions. And the maximum word limit is this words within the body of the abstract. This does not include the heading or authorship details. We can choose to allow or not allow images. We'll allow this, and we can also give references, but yes, we can also disable or enable these references. So let's keep the references enabled by saying not to disable the references. And if there are any conflicts that are arising, we can give a page to address those. And then you can save it. Let's say we click on save. We are led back to the event submissions dashboard. Now this is our submission. We can click on it, and we have all of these details filled in. This is the submission dashboard, which we'll come back to later. And if I go back to submissions to make you understand what we actually did, is we fill in the general details, which are the general controllers of the submission, and then we have all of these are corresponding to a certain page which the delegate will be filling in. So introduction, they'll be filling in their they'll be agreeing to the terms and conditions. On the second page, they'll be choosing their presentation types and categories, and on the third page they'll be choosing their title, and on the fourth page authors, and on the fifth page they can put in their content and their conflicts. So these are all uh, pages given to the submitter when they want to submit a paper. So if any of them is disabled, they will not be able to see these sections. So they'll not be able, if I disable conflicts, they'll not be able to see the conflict section at all. Or if I disable the content section, they'll not be able to fill in their content at all. So that's it about setting up a submission. Let's move forward back to the dashboard. And now in the next video, we'll be seeing how we can set up reviews, stages, conveners, and custom questions. And then we'll go on and submit a paper. Thank you.